always names that are banded out there. There's some names that I think would be high up. I don't know if you want me to go down a list of 15, but in my own view, I think there's some certainties.
I may have seems a little surprise. I would like, to see Shamar Joseph partner with Alzari Joseph, that pace shock at the top of the first 6 overs of the power play.
Welcome one and all to our cricket analysis on BIFF Cricket. We are here with Dr. Akshay Mansingh and Reza Abasali.
Yes,
welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, my brother.
Yes, we have so much to discuss. I guess we will start with the West Indies, with the West Indies team coming up, where we're going to select where the 15 will be named soon, and we will look at potential names for the 15. And we have the A team currently playing in Nepal, trying to get their names in the squad, because most of the players who will be in the squad have other commitments. But are you guys have maybe potential names in your head as to what the 15 would look like?
I give way to Doc first, my brother.
Listen, I think there are always names that are banded out there. There's some names that I think would be high up. I don't know if you want me to go down a list of 15, but in my own view, I think there's some certainties. Brandon King certainly would start at the top. Now, Brandon has had a mixed year. Internationally, he's actually had a very good year. In league cricket around the world, he's not had such a great year. But he'd certainly start up the top, and he'd have to sort of work his way out of the team as opposed to work his way into the team.
Yeah.
Nicholas Pooran, likewise, walks into the team in my view. Shea Hope gave us a lot of hope last year in CPL, because he showed us that you can play cricket in T20. He played proper cricket shots. He played, he formed innings within a 20-over period, and yet scored a lot of runs. Clearly, there's a keeper's role that needs to be filled as well. And to me, that would be, between him and Pooran. Pooran seems to be less inclined to keep more and more now.
Yeah.
Captain Robin Powell obviously walks into the team. I still have Shimron Hetmeyer in my squad. Shimron hasn't set the IPL ablaze, but then Shimron has only had the chance of facing 10 to 15 balls per innings. And in that, he scores at a high rate. But you can't blame somebody for something he hasn't got an opportunity to do. Bearing in mind that Shimron Hetmeyer is yet to prove his credentials for West Indies cricket, I would have him in there, but he would be somebody who could easily drop out very, very quickly if he doesn't, sort of perform from the start. Andre Russell has been, to me, one person who really has resurrected himself in the last 2 or 3 years. Andre Russell has done well in the IPL. He's actually done well for West Indies cricket in the last year. And I'd have him very much as the person who brings the experience and also brings the hitting forward. I guess we'll discuss what the roles are for each person a bit later. Romario Shepherd, to me, is one of the most improved players. I always held him in high regard, and I still have him very high up there in my starting 11. Jason Holder cannot be ruled out in my view. Jason plays a pivotal role in the all-round department, even though his batting has suffered of late. But I still think that on certain pitches, he's going to be invaluable with his height and the pace that he bowls at. Not blistering pace, but reasonable pace. However, his control has been a bit of a concern, and he's another one who has have him in the starting, but he could easily fall out if he doesn't perform early. Akil Hussain has been consistent for the West Indies, and I will still back him, along with Alzari Joseph, who's had a torrid time, you could say, or a torrid start to the IPL, but nonetheless is a world-class player, and I'd have him as an out-and-out fast bowler. That leaves me with one other spot in the 11, and that was to go to Kesh Moti, especially if the pitch is playing or if the conditions favor a spin bowler. So that's 11 there. And then in the reserves, there's some that I would say I'd really back very heavily, like Sherfin Rutherford, like Matthew Ford, who I think has done his bit in the last year to deserve being in the squad. Now, this 18 tour, for what it's worth, and I don't know if it's worth very much, but nonetheless, does have some people who I have my eyes on. Kimo Powell being one, Ruston Chase being another, and O'Shane Thomas, only because the selectors have put some faith in him. I honestly don't think that he's realized his potential, or even close to his potential. But the selectors have put faith in him, and I believe they've done that because of his pace. And I know he's worked very hard in the last year. Rajasthan Royals, I believe it is, was it Rajasthan? I can't remember which team it is, which is invested heavily in him. And therefore, I would still have him as a possible inclusion in the 15. So I think that's probably gone 16 out of 15. But, that sort of gives you and we can discuss the rules later, but I want to give Reza a chance to come in as well.
Oh, sure, Doc. Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Doc. Thanks so much. Good to see you again. I most of the picks that Doc mentioned, I concur with him. I may have seems a little surprised. I would like I mean, to see Shamar Joseph partner with Alzari Joseph, that pace shock at the top the first 6 overs of the power play. Now, lots of bandy about Darren Sammy talking about, giving me a 50-50 kind of analysis about Shamar, whether he'll be available or not. But I'm not talking about that just necessarily his fantastic performance last January against Australia. That's a wicket haul at high pace. But that's what we need, I think, at the top. So with high pace to shock, the batsmen in the first 6 overs. And Shamar would be really coming in for Obed McCoy in terms of that first 11. I have also, in terms of the other picks Doc mentioned, I concur again. At the opening slot, we'll have King. Mr. Charles. What Charles is it again? Johnson Charles is in the A team at the moment. I saw he made a doc today, but that's fine. Very experienced, of course, a World Cup T20 player before. Charles, nothing really about his stage. In terms, he's quite fit, looks fit. There's in my opinion, there's 3 rooms for that opening shot with King. I have Andre Fletcher, who's in the A team against Nepal. And I have young Mark Pial. He could bat, bowl, and field excellently. Doc mentioned Hetmyer, and I endorse that. Having a fairly good IPL, but other issues have been at hand in the past. Maybe he has resolved those issues. But I have an individual who could compete with Hetmyer, and I would choose or consider Casey Carty, who's right now in the A side. So my 15 looks like this. Just to summarize: Powell, King, Fletcher, Charles O'Dell, / Shea Hope, of course, Carty / Hetmyer, Huran, Shepherd, Russell, Joseph, Ruston Chase, Akeem Hussain, Budakesh Moti by a long shot, Myers, and I have Fabian Allen as a possible choice, bat, bowl, and field excellently. And to finish off the 15, Shamar Joseph. That's my side, right?
Okay. Well, some interesting points came out of that. I think Reza, I don't know, we're not necessarily settled yet on your 15 because we have some slash other names.
I saw that, yes.
Yeah. But let's first take it up with Doc.
Yeah.
Doc, we have 16, and I think O'Shane Thomas is that last name that you gave me. Now, would we be excluding that if we are looking at a 15? Because let's start at the bottom there.
Right. So let's look at it in a broader way. Let's look at the fast bowling options. I think Alzari Joseph is definitely the top fast bowler in this format for us.
Yeah.
Jason Holder qualifies as a fast bowler, even though we recognize he's not out and out fast.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got O'Shane Thomas as out and out fast, and Matthew Ford as, once again, not that fast, but with a lot more control. If you ask me to pick 3 out of that, then I think O'Shane Thomas, in my view, would not feature, simply because T20 is not somewhere where you have leeway. And you've seen in the IPL, even though IPL doesn't translate to world cricket that easily, but you've seen in the IPL where batsmen just have disdain for bowlers these days. I mean, the sort of scores that you're seeing, the sort of shots you're seeing, if you do not control, you're going to go for a lot of runs. And O'Shane Thomas has shown that even before this era, this paradigm shift that's taken place this year of scoring 250 plus, he's not been very expensive. So he would not make it in that squad, in my view. I know that Reza spoke about Shamar Joseph, but once again, one very good series in a test scenario does not equate T20. He did not do well in Super 50 last year. He did not do well in CPL. He did okay last year for Guyana. It wasn't a riveting performance. But one thing I'm worried about is taking people from a certain role and filling them in a different format of the game. And so for me, O'Shane has a bit more experience in that scenario, and that's why his name is even being called in the discussion. But if I had to pick, as I said, 4, he may not make it.
Yeah, and then when we look at maybe someone who don't have that sort of experience at all, Reza spoke about Shamar Joseph. Could we see Shamar Joseph getting into that team?
Well, I thought I just alluded to that by saying that he just had a good test series, but if you look at his limited overs record, it's not been the greatest at Super 50 or even CPL last year. Mm-hmm. He has not played in the IPL more than a handful of matches and has not excelled, and I don't expect that. This is something you've got to learn. The World Cup is not where you bring in people to try out. And it's also not a place where you bring people who have not performed to expect them to perform. We learned that two World Cups ago, I believe it was, when we brought in a whole set of experienced players, and we flopped. If you remember, we went for our experienced core that won us World Cups in the past, but we're well past their prime. And likewise, we don't have the richness of talent that you can take a youngster and plunk him into a World Cup and expect that he's going to excel. That resides in other countries now, but not in the West Indies.
Yeah, and Reza, I think you are looking at him bringing something different. People would say Obed McCoy brings something different, and Shamar Joseph would bring something different in terms of his raw pace. I think that's what you're looking at in terms of bringing him into the team, despite his lack of experience.
Yes, yes. I mean, I concur with Doc. I mean, a very experienced man. I mean, let's face it. He started off quite unsatisfactorily in his debut IPL match. He went 4 overs for 47 runs, and as I think the captain Rahul mentioned, he was spraying a bit and all of that. But he was bowling up to 150 miles, and I do concur that there's that inexperience. But I am just looking at shock treatment, and I think with Alzari Joseph, who is capable of 90 plus. Shamar is easily up there at 90 plus. He's supremely fit, and I think he would be really raring to go. I don't see him, I mean, God forbid, being susceptible to injury for 4 overs, but you can't say. I don't think he has played another IPL match. I may be wrong, but I think we need that shock treatment up front, and to work with Alzari Joseph. I think that could be, for that World Cup. With all respect to Doc, in terms of the lack of experience, I think, I mean, Sami might make the call. I think he might have gone Pakistan. I don't think he went Pakistan, but now he's in the IPL. He's absorbing a lot of information by world-class players in any case, and I'm sure he would be ready if called upon.
Yeah. And just to go to the point, raw shot pace, that what we've found now is that if you have a lot of pace and you don't have control, the ball goes faster over the boundary. Not even to the boundary, over the boundary. And unfortunately, the control has not been the forte of our fast bowlers of late. What Shamar did in the test match was phenomenal. And he bowled that in good places, he bowled at good lengths and so on. And I think his first IPL match went to show you that if you're not fully in tune with what happens in a T20 match, the pitches are different and so on, pace is not the only factor. And I think the days of shock pace are gone now if you don't have the control. Many of the shock pace bowlers are actually bowling at slower paces just to get that length right. Otherwise, they're dispatched very easily.
Yeah, I would side with Dr. Mansingh as well with that. No, I think the all-rounders. Let's stay with the seam bowlers a little bit. We stick with our all-rounders, seam bowlers. We have the likes of Keema Paul trying to break in. We know Andre Russell. We know Shamar, not Shamar. Romario Shepherd. Yeah, is looking good. Jason Holder, Keema Paul. Let's look at those names 4, but let's look at maybe those 2 who are trying to get in.
Reza?
Oh, Doc. Well, I have thank you, Doc. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 all-rounders here. I mean, subject to, of course, the final 15. Shepherd doing very well at Mumbai Indians. Russell, of course, KKR all-rounder. Bowling seems to have been quite improved in the last year. Wicket to wicket. Not Alzari Joseph, Roston Chase, captain of the A side in Nepal right now, batting and bowling all-rounder. Akil Hussain can bat and bowl, and he opens the bowling at times. I have a toss-up. No, I have Jason Holder inside, bat and ball, and then Kyle Mayers, who's on the second team. He's an all-rounder. Fabian Allen. No, I don't know why, Doc. Maybe I missed it. I know he may have had some injuries in the past, or long past, but I find this youngster quite a very capable player. He brings I think he brings an X factor to any T20 team. A very good fielder, can bowl left arm, tight left arm spin, and he can be an explosive batsman. And he, I would consider a genuine all-rounder. And then that's about it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all-rounders in a T20 game. Anyone can excel at any point in time. They don't need 2 and 3 and 4. But that's the scope of my all-rounders.
If we should focus a little bit on the pace, Dr. Mansingh, the pace bowling all-rounders a little bit first before we look at the likes of Fabian Allen and so on. Where would you go with those names in terms of pace bowling all-rounders?
Right. So if you talk about the fast all-rounders, Andre Russell, as I said, would certainly walk into the team in my view, and that's simply because he's had a very good IPL, and he's actually the last year had a good international record as well. Jason Holder, just because of experience and because I know that he has the ability of being able to analyze on the field. We have some bowlers who will bowl and they get hit and they come back and bowl the exact same thing again and again and again, thinking they'll get different results. Jason, I think, has the capability, maybe with his stint in captaincy, of being able to think on his feet. Whether he can execute has been a bit questionable over the last few years, but still I think he's head and shoulders above the others. Romario Shepherd, as I mentioned, I think we're cutting down the pace of it, but still he's been somebody who has been there more often than not for the West Indies. And from a bowling perspective alone, I think he's good enough to bowl 4 overs and bowl them well. Now, I don't have very many other fast bowlers in my armamentarium right now as far as those who can bat and bowl. But Azhari has shown the propensity to hit the ball better than he did before, and that gives me a bit more confidence in the lower order. In fact, if I need a pinch hitter, I might even go with Azhari these days. But I don't think that there's any other fast bowler who's an all-rounder that I can think of unless you have a name that you can bring up.
Yeah. So Kemo Paul doesn't really get in as yet, like that. So
I do have Kemo in my 15 possibly. Don't consider him as a fast bowler, to be honest. To me, he's a cut below all of them in terms of the pace. He's more a medium pace, fast medium kind of thing. But yes, you're right. Kemo Paul, especially if he performs in this A-team tour, would be in the reckoning.
Yeah. Reza, when we look at Kemo Paul, then what's your take on him? He bowled 2 overs this morning. He bowled 2 overs in that game. He went for 27 runs.
Yes, I saw that. Yes.
Yeah, took 1 wicket. So he really went for long runs against that Nepal.
Yeah, I know Kemo was in and out for a while. I mean, for whatever reasons which may or may not be, just in the public view, in and out. But I know he has a change-up delivery which can work. Because why I say about the change-up, I'm looking also for death bowlers in this T20 tournament. Because to be honest with you, 60 runs in 5 overs is quite a possibility for any good T20 side in the world now. So we need, Russell is probably considered death. Jason Hole is considered death. Kemo Paul with his change up down, coming into the end. But that control is really a deciding factor, bowling in the last 5 overs of a tournament of this scope. So if Kemo comes in, I think, he would probably give his best. But I don't really have him. I might get a lot of criticism for this. I don't have him really in my final 15.
And if you're talking about that, then maybe Obed McCoy then comes in a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because I think he does a little bit better job.
Yes.
Obed McCoy. And he's a different, with that left arm option.
Yes.
What do you think about him? First, Reza, and then let me hear what Doc has to say about Obed McCoy's chance.
Yeah, McCoy stand on the second yacht, I think his second side there. Left arm, as you mentioned. I think, he seemed to have been improving in his last 6 months in terms of, not heavy pace, but control. And you talk about the ball moving away from right-handers. So McCoy, change up, left arm, could be a viable option. I don't know. Doc may have a contrasting view of McCoy effectiveness. But I don't have him in my final.
Okay, Doc?
So, to me, once again, you need to come into a World Cup showing me that you belong at that level. Obed McCoy has had issues, be it injury-wise or otherwise, of not being able to complete series. And he's not come back convincing me that he's at that level, that he's excelled beyond somebody else and that he should leapfrog anybody. Immense potential. The left-hand option is very good. But unfortunately, I need to see more results. I cannot go off of potential. I cannot go off of what's happening in the nets. There are many, many leagues being played around the world that these guys have opportunities to play in. I need to hear your name coming up in these leagues before I have you by 11. That takes me also to Fabian Allen. 2 years ago, he'd have walked into my World Cup team. But you have to play cricket now for me to understand that you're ready for T20. He's only played CPL. He did not perform in Super 50. He's not playing regularly in domestic Jamaica cricket. He's not turned up for the 4-day. I still have a lot of respect for 4-day cricket if you're especially trying to improve your talent. He does not turn up for 4-day cricket. He's not playing local domestic cricket. He played 1 or 2 leagues overseas and failed miserably. He's not being called up to overseas leagues now to play. I can't have him walking into a World Cup squad. I'm sorry. And so, once again, 2 years ago, some of these names may have been in the reckoning. I don't have them in the reckoning right now, unless they perform in Nepal. That may, may bring them out, but do that.
Yeah, and he didn't make the 11 this morning for that first game in Nepal. So I think that may be telling something. With Akilo saying not in the mix, yes, Kishimoto was there, but he didn't make the cut. So I think you might be onto something there, Doc, where Fabian Allen is concerned. Let's look before we move at Roston Chase's chances, because he brings something different. We talk about bringing something different. That off-spin option is not a big turn on the ball, but is the only off-spin option in the team. Bats very well. I remember I was saying to Lannerman that when we look at what won the World Cup some years ago, you know, that Marlon Samuels is not Marlon Samuels, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying, you know, he has the ability to bat, very capable batter, and he gives you something. He can give you 2 overs, 3 overs. This morning he bowled 3 overs, you know, very tidy, the tidiest of the lot, 3 overs for 20, despite not getting a wicket. He was tidy in a game 200 plus. So what are his chances of getting into that 11?
Well, I tell you, getting into the squad is the first part, and getting into the second part. So getting into the squad, 2 or 3 things. I think the fact that he's been made captain shows the level of confidence that the selector had in him. Once again, Ralston Chase 2 years ago would have been more likely to have made the squad than he would have right now, because 2 years ago he was dominating the CPL, he was doing well internationally. That has fallen off over the years. So what do? You make him captain to go to Nepal, and what does he score? What does he do? He scores 74 off of 46, and gets 3 overs 20 runs. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see in somebody who's given the opportunity to grab it. So right now, he would be very high in my squad because I know that he has, as you said, that element of off spin, of being able to bat, and he's showing that he's performing, at least he's performed today. One more good performance, and I think he should be in the squad.
Yeah, and if maybe you're looking for at a floater, come in, if you lose 2 early wickets, he would be there. It's just a pity you won't have the impact sub that we see in the IPL, because certainly he would be somebody that you can come into consolidated innings and give you something. But before we move into out and out batters, Kyle Mayers, his chances of getting into the 15-man squad.
Okay,
backup, the opening option, and he gives you something maybe with a new ball. Reza, what's your take on that?
Yeah, Kyle Mayers, all-format player. I remember his big double 100, I think, on debut. Was it Bangladesh, I believe, and then I saw after that kind of slide down, but that's in Test cricket. He has had his chances in the IPL in T20 cricket. Big shot player. I may get 30-40 quick turn, and then he gets dismissed. For me, Kyle Mayers' problem, I think, is his temperament, and you know, the inability to concentrate for long periods. But when he's on song, he can be very dangerous. I do have probably a window for him there, but I have him, of course, as a slash, one player going to another player. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets that pick, but I need Kyle Mayers to be more stable in his temperament.
Yeah, Doc?
I never saw Kyle Mayers as a high, what you want to say, a top rung player, but I always felt that his approach to the game is what got him to where it got him. In other words, you know, he wasn't the most talented in my view, but he had a lot of application, and I also thought he had, you know, the sparks for the game as well. However, in the last year, he has fallen off. He had, you know, an opportunity that I played last year where he did extremely well. But if you look at the last 12 months or so, or last 10 months, his form has dropped enough for me to be a bit concerned about his inclusion in the 15, and that's why I didn't have him in mind. Okay.
All right, let's look at the out and out batters now. I don't think wicket keeping will have an issue, because you're looking at Shea Hope and the Nicholas Pooran. So yes. I think that's covered. But in terms of the out and out batters now, let's start at the top. We have Brendan King, we have Johnson Charles as an option as well. Tell me, what do you think about the batters? Let's start at the top. Kyle Mayers in it and so on. But let's see. Doc?
Well, I have a serious problem. I have a really serious problem, because Brendan King, as I said, is there as the number 1. I have a serious problem with number 2. I'm very reluctant to go back to the Johnson Charles and Evan Lewis's and so on, who had their opportunities in the past, but once again have failed to deceive of late, and that includes at the CPL level. I have, you know, I kind of wrote off Kyle Mayers a while ago, so therefore that kind of limits me there. And so I'm struggling with an opener. And therefore I'm thinking, now, you know, I'm taking it back a far way. But in 1996, we had a problem in the World Cup. We were losing, and the ultimate came when we lost to Kenya. Mm-hmm. And suddenly we have to shake up ourselves. And one of the things that they did is they brought somebody from the bottom order and made him open. And so I believe the wicketkeeper went in and opened that time, and it just and suddenly, you know, there was a change in what happened. In other words, what I'm saying is sometimes you have to think outside of the box. And I would actually probably, since nobody's been able to show me that they can put together an opening partnership or are informed, I'd have to bring somebody from the lower order and bring him to the top. Why? Because I have too many pinch hitters and therefore I know that I have somebody at the bottom who can finish off for me, I would not be loath to bring up an Akil Hussain or an Alzari Joseph to fill that spot, or ask Shea Hope to go up, even though to me he's the rock of my batting. He's the rock of my batting, therefore I don't want him to be moved from number 4. So my weakness is opening, and I'm not willing to just by default go to an Andre Fletcher, Evan Lewis, or Johnson Charles, because I don't think they've shown me anything in the last 12 months that makes me think that they've changed from what they were before. You know, what have changed to what they were before.
Yeah. Reza, what is your take on that opening combination?
Yes, the doc is on song there with that regarding those 2 opening spots. Yeah, I mean, Fletcher is in this A team, right? Charles is in the A team. I mentioned Young Dale. I mean, he's in the A team. He didn't get a chance last night. But, well, it looks like a Shea Hope opening with King for that strong stability at the top, because once you have one of these guys go early at the opening slot, it brings some pressure down in the middle and back end. And, with even in T20 cricket, we have had problems with that stability in the middle, because once there is a rush of wickets in the middle, that even creates more pressure down in the end. Doc, I think I heard him say of a possibility of Alzari Joseph opening. Well, that's a bold move, no doubt. But it may work out. I mean, the selectors might go with Charles, but it may work out, I think, for the better of that opening partnership. I don't have a problem with Shea Hope opening.
So just to put 2 things in there, cover. I actually do have a problem with Shea Hope, because I said he's my rock. He's my number 4 who's going to stabilize things. But just look at Sunil Narayan. If you can't remember back to Kenya 1996, let's look at Sunil Narayan and what they've done with him. Where they've taken him from a role of literally a lower order batsman and put him into a role which he's responded to, because it's what you want in that role. And what I want in that role is somebody who could perhaps last 4 overs, but can give me a lot of runs in that 4 overs. If they get out, hitting out, I don't mind, because I still have my Puran and Shea Hope, who can bring that stability and bat out 2 or 3 overs before they go at it again. But I want somebody going blazing who I think can last 4 overs. To be honest, some of those names of the past, I don't have the confidence can last 4 overs.
Well, let's see what will happen. We're waiting with bated breath for Wednesday. With that in that department. But something that is an issue is that middle over. I think when we look at Puran and Hope, that I think they pick themselves based on where they are currently. But I think Hetmyer, Sherfin Waterford, that right there is the area. And I heard Reza said he's looking at also at Casey Carty in that department. Reza, first let me go with you. Let me hear what you have to say about it, because you have 3 names in there. Where would you go there?
Yeah, again, as I mentioned earlier, that's about the brittleness in the middle. You need 3 batsmen, obviously, to score big, whether it's Hope, Puran, of course. I have Carty slotted with Hetmyer. My take is really, I mean, I would prefer Carty. I've seen Carty bat in T20 or whatever, and I think he has a good head on his shoulders. He knows what ball to pick and not on the bad balls. He will take advantage. I think he's a stabilizer in the middle. I mean, Nicholas Puran, of course, picks himself. I mean, when Puran is on song, he gets the ball all over the place. Brilliant sixes, Puran, I mean, somebody must have spoken to him, because in the recent past, he would hit a quick 50 or 40 or 50, and then he gets out going for a big shot. But again, that 3 batsmen there in the middle, somebody got to score rather big to carry forward to the back end of the game.
No?
Well, there's one name that was interestingly made to open today, and that was Alec Athanaze. Now, I'm a bit reluctant, because this boy is so talented that I don't want him to be playing multi-roles, not understand what his role in cricket is. My view is that this is a solid middle-order batsman for the Test team, who must develop his skills there and then apply them to one-day cricket. And I say that because today he was made to open. And he succeeded. He made 47 off 25 balls.
Yeah.
But to put him in the opening start in the World Cup, once again, I just, Casey Carty that Reza mentioned, all the attributes that he said is what I endorse. Having a good head on his neck, being able to read the game, to play within his ability, which is what I like about Casey. You don't see him trying to go out there and slog. He plays within. So does Alec Athanaze, even though I think he has a bit more flair. But you know something? If I had to invest in one, I'd rather go for one of those 2 rather than a Johnson Charles or Evan Lewis or Andre Fletcher. That's where I kind of sit. Now, as far as opening is concerned, to me, the fact that they've gone with Athanaze means that they're thinking something. In today's match, that was the 18 match, and the fact that he scored 47 off of 25 balls. Once again, that 4 overs that I was talking about. he's able to stand there and bat and score runs at a good strike rate. So I wouldn't rule him out of the discussion. But remember when we started, I said people like Hetmeyer and Son have to be given their chance, but they can't stay there for too long if they don't succeed. Razor puts it a different way. He says Hetmeyer slash Carty, which is kind of saying the same thing. I just want to throw Alec Avenir's name in the mix as well, but not as an opener. I just want to put him in the mix because I think he's an up and coming player who I'd much rather go with than some who've proven themselves in the past.
And somebody who would have taken their opportunity when given at that position is Sherfield Waterford. What's the joy for him?
Well, remember, I did have him in my 15. So I think that, he's somebody, when they came, I thought Rutherford and Romario Shepherd were very similar, at least in the batting scenario. Yeah. But somehow Shepherd seemed to have developed and Rutherford had faltered along the way. But I think he had a much better season last year in the CPL. I think he's shown a lot more, maturity may be a strong word, but a lot more ability in the 50 over game, in the 20 over game. So I don't have him out too far afield. I have him in my 15.
Good. Yeah. And we remember that series where Hetmeyer wasn't firing, and it was Waterford who came in and took that opportunity, did well for the West Indies. So I think that put him in good stead for the World Cup. Now, something outside I want us to look at. You guys mentioned Evan Lewis. You guys mentioned Sunil Narine. That's something they won't be in the 15. But we have to look at them. Let's start with Narine. Deciding not to come out of retirement. And last night someone said to us, look, we have to respect these guys' decision. And I totally understand that. But we also at the same time feel a little bit wanting when you see the performances with the likes of Narine, looking imperious again as a bowler and as a batter, setting the world alight in the IPL. So what's your take on him deciding not to come out of retirement? Reza, let's start with you.
Yes, after he scored that 100 in that IPL game, apart from, of course, his economical bowling, big call out by Rockman Powell to have Narine back in the team. And then I think it was, he said Rob Powell is talking to Ran, he talking to this one, we got to talk to Narine. And then finally Narine made a release saying, well, thanks for the acknowledgement, so forth. Leaving it to the guys you're going to support. And I respect that. And there would have been the critics, whether left or right with Narine return, well, why is he, he's going to be called, he doesn't want to, he just backing out, all sorts of things, which I don't want to get, in part of. But the bottom line, he has made his decision, he's back in the team. Narine is 35, 36, still at the top of his game. As we know, we have had all this controversy about his action and all that stuff. But I think he has made the right decision, and we move on.
Yeah. Doc, is there anything that you think might have, I heard Reza mention some of the action and so on, but is there anything that you think might have, kept his mind said, looking, I'm not going back? Is there anything you think would be playing on his mind?
I honestly don't know what would be playing on his mind. I think on current form, he would walk into the team. I think over the years, he's shown that as a batsman, he's actually, shown far more ability than we'd credited him for. Mm-hmm. As a bowler, he's had his issues with his action. And when he remodeled the action, he got called again. So he does recognize that a third call in international cricket is going to probably end whatever few years he has left. But the other thing is that Narine, with the previous action, he would take a 4 for 12 or a 3 for 15. Then he went through a period of taking maybe a 1 for 30, 1 for 35. What he's done now is with this remodeled action, still shown that he can be very economical. And that's one reason why I'd like to see him in the team, because I think that he still has a role as a bowler, even though he's not a wicket-taking bowler anymore. He's still a very conservative bowler, and he's batting very well. But having said that, it's one thing to be performing in leagues, it's one thing to be performing, but if you're not mentally in the game, then you don't belong in the game. And I think he has resigned himself to the fact that he can't prepare himself for international cricket, and I fully respect that. Fully respect that.
Yeah, we have to respect his decision. I think we'll stay with that. But Evan Lewis, a little bit more controversial, because he decided to make himself unavailable for West Indies. We've heard a lot of talk in the past about commitment of players and what we want to see when we pull on that maroon for the West Indies. Doc, what's your take on Evan Lewis and him making himself unavailable?
Well, help me with the controversy, because to start with, you have to be scoring runs before the controversy comes into play. Evan was a phenomenal. Listen, Evan has been one of the better cricketers we've had in T20 in the past. But that's exactly what it was, the past. His CPL was dismal last year.
Yes.
And his own international career in the last few years has not been up to par. And therefore, I don't think there's much of a controversy right now. Whether he's available or not available, he would not be picked, in my view, simply off of performance.
Yeah, Reza, he made himself unavailable for the A team tour because I guess they wanted to have a look at him. What's your take on that?
Well, before I comment on that, there, Cover. I mean, I don't know if you guys would have known it. Evan Lewis was recently playing Premiership cricket for a team called Best Marching Motos in the Premiership League of Trinidad and Tobago, and he's been scoring quite freely in both the 4-day or 3-day matches and now the 50 over. So that's where he has been playing cricket. I'm watching his T20 international record here: 53 matches, 1,465 runs, 30 average, just under 210 50s. So there's no question in my mind that Evan Lewis is a top T20 player. But again, the question arises. I mean, I don't know why he withdrew his selection or turned down selection. I don't know what's happening behind the scenes, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't want to. I mean, I could talk to people and find out what's going on with Evan. But the fact is, had Evan's situation, whatever it is, behind the scene, in front of the scene, been of course amenable for him to be selected, I mean, he would have been a very good opening partner for Brandon King. But yes, as I said, you know, something there is happening on the side. He's been playing Premiership League in Trinidad and Tobago, batting quite well. But his commitment, I mean, I'm not questioning. I don't know his situation. I mean, but to play top level international cricket for the West Indies, I don't know if that is still sustainable.
I mean, if I could, I'd say that, you know, hearing that he's playing domestic cricket in Trinidad is really good, and that's one step ahead of Fabian Allen. But you know, there's so many international leagues going around the world, and if he's not considered for that, with the record that you spoke of, it perhaps reflects on his current form. Be it, you know, batting or mentally in the game or whatever. It reflects on that because he's not sought after anymore.